Looks good.
Okay. Well, once again, I will give you an insight of the Italian book market and my presentation. I will say with some anticipation will be full of numbers and graphs and so on. I know it's not the best premise, but I hope you still can find it interesting. It will be divided in three parts. In the first one, we'll see a general overview of the Italian book market and its context. So the role of the Italian publishing in Italy and in Europe, and the numbers of new titles published per year. The second one will be related to the consumer market, and we'll see the sales in the trade channels, the genre, and so on. And the third one, probably the most interesting for you, will concern the translation rights, what we sell, what we buy, what is in general terms the internationalization of the Italian market. In the left part of the screen, you can see a progress bar. It gives you an idea of more or less the moment of the presentation we are in. The blue part, the general overview, the green part, the consumer market, the yellow one, the translation right part. So let's start with the first part, the context, how the Italian publishing sector is placed in our country. The thing we always like to repeat, because probably it's the most interesting part of our sector, is that publishing is the first Italian cultural industry, followed by pay TV subscription, free-to-air TV subscription, video games, and so on. I have to make some to add some details to this chart, because this comparison is made at constant scope. It means that we are excluding revenues from hardwares. Otherwise, video games, for instance, will have a way higher position. And at the same time, we are excluding revenues from advertising. Otherwise, clearly pay TV and free-to-air TV subscription would have a way higher value. It means more or less you are seeing which are the expenditures of the general public. And it's interesting to notice that in Italy, publishing is what is preferred by the majority of people. Some values are a bit lower than you could expect, concerts and cinema, for instance, but that's because this value I refer to 2021. In 2022, this value are way higher, and so in 2023, but still way lower than video games. If this is the situation in the between the cultural industries, what is the ranking of the Italian publishing in Europe? Italian publishing ranks fourth in Europe, preceded by Germany, by far the largest market in Europe, the UK, then France, and we precede Spain. Once again, this chart needs lots of specifications, lots of details, because the rank is clear. I mean, no one will doubt that Germany is the first market in Europe, and then the UK, France, and Italy. The problem is that every kind of market in Europe, in the world, to be honest, measure its own market in a different way. So first thing you must know is that UK and France detect sales in terms of publishers' net turnover, while Germany, Italy, and Spain in terms of revenues at cover price of the book sold. So it's hard to make a comparison between publishers' net turnover and sales at cover price. Here we have just an estimation of this difference. The second important thing to know is that in this slide, we are excluding the export. Otherwise, the UK market and the France market will be way bigger, and the Spanish one too will be way bigger than they are in the slide. It means we are just looking at the expenditure in the national countries. I'm not making a slide about the position of the Italian market in the world, but even because it's really, really hard to have an idea of all the single markets in the world, but I'm pretty sure Italy is in the top 10 market in the world. I mean, there are just the US and the Chinese market before Germany, probably the Japan and Korea, but it's hard to have a deep some good details of these kind of markets. But well, Italy is for sure between the 10 biggest market in the world. You see, the market is worth 3.4 billion euros, 3.3, sorry. And how this market is composed. I'll just explain this slide starting by the right side of it. You can see half of our market is composed by trade channels, so physical bookstores, online bookstores, and large-scale distribution. Then you can see there are other smaller trade channels. And it's interesting, the educational sector is worth 23 points. It's a really high percentage, but that's because in Italy, the educational expenditures are in charge of families, unlike many other countries. I mean, I don't know if you've seen data from Germany, for instance, or from other European countries. The educational sector is way less important than in Italy. Digital accounts for another 13% of the total. But when we talk about digital, okay, there are ebooks, audiobooks, but we're talking especially of databases. It means products for professional lawyers, surgeons, and so on. So a way specific sector, and we are not talking so much about the consumer market, but I'll show you some data concerning the digital consumer market later on. Another interesting fact, even if you cannot see the percentages in this slide, is the huge gap between 2020 and 2021. We have gained something like 400 million euros, a very huge leap that has maintained between 2021 and 2022. If you look, we have just lost 1.5 percentage point compared to the previous year. It's something like a natural bounce back. We are still way higher compared to the pre-pandemic values. It's something really, really interesting. Even with 2023 data, you will see in the next weeks, in the next months, that still the market is way bigger than the pandemic. Here you have a slide full of text. I won't read it all, it makes no sense, but it's just to give you an idea about the competitive arena in the Italian book market. We have 4 major players. I assume many of you already know them. They are Mondadori, the biggest one, followed by GEMS, Gruppo Editoriale Mauro Spagna, Gruppo Feltrinelli, and Giunti. We are talking about the 4 major players in the trade channels, even if all of them, with the only exception of GEMS, are also very important players also in the educational sector. One peculiarity of the biggest group in Italy is that unlike many other countries, they are at the same time owners of the biggest chain bookshops in Italy. Mondadori has its own chain bookshops. Giunti, probably the most numerous one. Feltrinelli, the most important chain bookshops. While if GEMS doesn't own a chain bookshops, is linked with the leading Italian book distributors, that is Messaggeria. If this is the situation in the trade sector and more or less in the educational sector, in other parts of the Italian book market, the situation is way more complicated. The role of the biggest players is way less relevant. For instance, in the academic and in the professional sector, the role of Mondadori, GEMS, Feltrinelli, Giunti, and so on is way less relevant. And we have the presence on lots of foreign companies, for instance, Walter Clover, Pearson, McGraw-Hill, Springer, all groups that you already know way better, I assume. But obviously, the market cannot be reduced to just four names. There are many other publishers, small, medium, large publishers. If we just focus on the ones with more than 100,000 euros per year of sales, there are 746 imprints in Italy. But as a whole, we have also 7,000 more publishers with less than 100,000 Europe. I mean, we have more or less 8,000 publishers in Italy that sold at least one book during 2023. It's a great vitality of our book market. There are so many publishers and they appeal to very specific publics. Each of them reach its own public, covers a specific sector of the tastes of the publishers, of the consumers, and it's really interesting. And try to figure out what it means if you're a small publisher in Italy to compete with so many other publishers. But it is a good sign of vitality and of diversity in the market. Here you can see that more or less every year we publish 80,000 new titles per year. What is interesting is that if you look at the difference between 2019 and 2020, of course, there have been a collapse of new titles published. And it was also natural that in 2022, there would have been a very huge growth of the number of new titles published because you have to publish titles originally planned to be published in 2020. So it would have been natural to see a bounce back in 2022 to the values of the pre-pandemic. But this has not happened. In 2022 and once again in 2023, the number of new titles published per year is still 7,000 titles higher compared to the pre-pandemic. It means that we have reached a new level of the market. Lots of titles more published, lots of new publishers are born after the pandemic, and the market as a whole has become bigger. The majority of the titles published, you can see in the right part of the slide, are titles of fiction, more or less one third of the market. And 11% are children YA books. The general nonfiction is an important part of our production, 26%, and so on. You can see the specialized nonfiction is another 19%, and manuals, self-help, and so on represent another 12%. Now, you've seen before, we have at the moment 8,000 active publishers in Italy. And every year you have 80,000 new titles published. It means that the catalog of print books actually every year available in the main channels is growing and growing and growing and growing. If you look in 1988, this year is not casual. It's the year when we was guests of honor in Frankfurt the last time. The catalog of print books available for the consumer public, for the general public, was 250,000 books. At the moment, every person in Italy can choose between 1.5 million books that they can actually be bought in all the channels. It is an impressive number, and Probably if we just stop in this slide, you can just imagine what has been the evolution of the Italian market. I mean, it's obvious that even the biggest bookshops in Italy cannot contain 1.5 million books. It's clear while the catalog of print books has become so important, the online channels have assumed more and more and more importance during the years. And at the same time, the small and medium publishers have been able to find channels where they will let their books available for the public. All these data are all linked together. All these facts are all linked together. It's to some extent it's hard to imagine them all together, but that's what has happened in very, very few times if you think about that. If we also make some consideration considering the ebooks, you can see that every year we are producing 30,000 new ebooks. They are an important part of the production. I have not repeated the slide of the active catalog of ebooks in Italy, but just for you to know, at the moment, 500,000 of ebooks are available for the general public in Italy. So it's another format important for the general public, and it's not just important because it means you have a wider offer, but because it's extremely important to have ebook in Italy, and especially to have accessible ebooks in Italy. I hope you already know Fondazione Lia. We know that you have already, Live Canon Books have already collaborated with Lia Foundation in the past for efforts on the European Accessibility Act and for the topic of metadata for accessibility. Now, I know being all of you Canadian, you're probably thinking, I'm not interested in the European Accessibility Act. But that's not true, because if you want your books to be published in the European market, or especially hopefully in the Italian book market, it is important to know that from 2025 on, ebooks must be accessible for visual and for blind people and for visually impaired people. And it is something, a right in Europe that is important that the European Commission defended in our continent. And Fondazione Lia represent a jewel of the Italian landscape. Fondazione Lia is linked with the Italian Publisher Association, and at the moment it has more than 45,000 accessible ebooks in their catalog. Now, let's see some number concerning the consumer market. With consumer market, I'll mean, to the extent of this presentation, once again, sales that are made in physical bookshops, online bookshops, including Amazon, and large-scale distribution. Now you will see some more up-to-date data referred to 2023. The first thing that can be noticed, as I was saying, is that in 2023, the market has become even bigger than in the trade market. The consumer market has become even bigger than in 2022. It has gained 1 point compared to the previous year, but it has gained 14 points compared to the pre-pandemic. You're talking about more than 200 million euros gain in just 4 years. It's something huge and something totally unexpected. Everyone was waiting for a brutal bounce back after 2021, but simply it doesn't happen. Luckily, I will add. If these are the numbers of the sales, you can see probably, in my opinion, even more interesting, the numbers of copies sold. If we make a comparison between 2023 and 2019, you can see that in just 4 years, we have gained almost 14 million copies. They are at the moment in the trade channels, and we are talking only about print books, 112 books sold per year. It means that the growth you have seen also in the previous slide, it's just not a matter of inflation. It's actually a book market that has become way bigger. And talking about that, now I'll do something that should never be done, that is going back to the previous slide. If you look, the sales have gained 14 points in 4 years. The copies sold, I skip to the following slides, have gained 13 points in 4 years. And what it means, that the average covered book price hasn't become higher. Books have more or less the same price they had 4 years ago, while the inflation gained something like 14 points or something like that. And it's wonderful for the public, clearly. It is way less wonderful for the publishers, because it means that their margins have become way lower, and it has been terrible to some extent for the physical bookshops, because all the other fixed costs, the rent, the light, and so on, have become way higher. But it is really, really hard in Italy to increase the average cover price of the books. The general public is extremely sensible to the cover book, and you cannot just increase it by 10% in a year. It is a problem. I know it's not a problem only in Italy. I know in many other European countries, probably even in Canada. This is a huge problem for the booksellers, but it is once again a good news for the general public. If you remember some slide ago, what I've make you see about the numbers of the of the print books available in the general market, and if you consider the numbers of the publishers active in Italy, it's easy to understand that in the last 15 years, the market share of the online stores has increased and increased and increased during the years. What is interesting is that if you don't even read the numbers, just look about the trend, you see obviously the huge leap between 2019 and 2020 due to the pandemic, of course. But the trend was pretty clear even before the pandemic. I mean, probably we would have reached exactly the same value you're seeing at the moment in 2023, this 41% of market share of online stores. Probably we wouldn't have reached it in 2023. It would have been in 2024, 2025, but the trend was clear and to some extent unstoppable. Obviously, the pandemic has given a big hand to the online stores. And when I say online stores, I'm thinking about one online store in particular. There's no need to specify which one. One other interesting fact that is not so obvious, if you look at the market share of the large-scale distribution, is decreasing during the year, and it has decreased very rapidly. It was 18 points in 2007. In 2023, it's less than 5 points, and in these last months, it's even smaller. But that's not just a matter of channels. I mean, in the large-scale distribution, you could intercept occasional bias, occasional readers. The fact that these channels are becoming less and less important during the years means that in Italy we are losing occasional readers, occasional bias. And that's a big problem. It means that the impressive numbers you have seen before, is 3.5 billion euros as a whole, the 1.7 billion euros of the trade channels are made mainly by strong readers. And that's okay for the publishers, of course. That's also okay for the booksellers, but it means we are still struggling to make reading an activity that involves the majority of Italians. I will not show you data concerning reading habits in Italy because they are quite terrible, and but if you're interested in the topic, I can give you more information concerning reading habits in Italy. Now, another thing linked both to the increasing importance of the online stores and of the huge growth of the active catalog in Italy is that only for 34-35% of the sales is made by new titles. I mean, titles published during the year. The 2/3 of the market is made by backlist. And as you can see, backlist is growing more than new titles. Compared to 2019, the backlist have gained 18 points compared to 2019. New titles just, so to say, 11 points. To some extent, it is a natural fact because the catalog is every year bigger, but try to think once again what it means for booksellers, what it means for publishers, what it means when you have to put in the market one new titles. It has lots of implication. I think you can imagine the majority of them, but once again, if you're interested in these aspects, we can talk about it a bit more during the Q&A part. Even because now we'll just look the catalog in 2023. Half of the sales of the catalog in 2023 are made by books published in 2019 or even earlier. It is something that no bookseller could sustain. I mean, it's obvious, it's a cause and an effect of the huge development of the online stores during the years. And it is something interesting, something problematic for all the chain, the distributors, the publisher, and so on. But it also means that there is a long tail effect in the sales that you also have to consider when you publish a book in Italy. I mean, the sales are not cannot be measured only in the first month, on the first year of the titles. You have to look at the midterm period. Now, I want to show you something concerning the digital sector in the trade channels. So I won't speak about databases and so on. I will talk about digital sector in a very strict sense. So ebooks, consumer ebooks and audiobooks. You can see they account for 6%, 5-6% of the trade sector. They are not so relevant in Italy. And to some extent, it is due also to the fact that we have not so many readers in Italy. And also to the fact that it is not a so well developed sector in Italy. If you look at data of ebooks in the US, for instance, they will be totally different. And also audiobooks are, even if they had a three-digit growth between 2020 and 2021, they seems they've stopped to gain so much. I mean, if you look at data of the Nordic countries, Sweden mainly, but also Finland, Norway, audiobooks have a so much bigger market share. It isn't happening in Italy, and I I will not make prevision concerning the future, but I do not think Italy will ever reach a situation comparable with that of Nordic countries or of the US. Probably I will be wrong, but only the future will say if the digital will be able to gain more market share during the years. Here, you can see just a very simple comparison about how the sales are divided during the year in Italy. You can see 13 periods instead of 12 because with Nielsen Bookscan, there were periods of 4 weeks each. So they are 13 instead of 12 months. Just to give you two important informations. The first is that, like many other countries, Christmas, December is the month where are concentrated the majority of sales. It is the month in which the Italian market can see if it has gained or it has lost value compared to the previous year, and where all bookshops can see if they can survive or not. This seriously the most important part of the market for gifts, clearly, but not only. The second part is that you can see, it's not that clear, but yeah, I hope you can trust me. The fact that 2023 was better than 2024 was due mainly, we'll say only, due to December, to the last 4 weeks of the year. Even because Italy is having an economical crisis. And insofar as the average cover price of the books has not increased, wages in Italy have not increased, luckily. When you have to make a gift, you go for some kind of good, just a book that is cheap, and it has not increased its costs unlike the majority of the others. It is an important fact, and I'm really curious to know if even in December 2024 it will happen once again. Here we can see some data concerning the main genres in the consumer market. You can see the main genre in Italy is foreign fiction, followed by general nonfiction, children 1A, and specialized nonfiction. Here you can see something really interesting. First, that I won't read all the numbers, but I just want you to be focused on the most important fact. The first is that the market has gained 14 points compared to the pre-pandemic, but not all the market has grown the same way. In Italy, we have had something like, I've never understood if it is the correct word in English, a fictionalization of the market. I mean, the fictional genre are the one that are driving the sales in Italy. You can see the three-digit growth of comics, the great phenomena of the last 4 years. The foreign fiction, the Italian fiction, they are a quarter higher than 4 years ago. And then children YA, that is incredible. We'll see later on. The non-fiction is not gaining that much. And on the contrary, if you look at the specialized non-fiction, it is struggling a lot, even because we have a big problem with books for university. It means that the market is changing and it's changing really, really fast. You can see also the comparison between 2023 and 2022 that the same phenomena is also in a short period of time. Now, don't be focused on the general nonfiction growth because, well, you will find soon why the general nonfiction gained that year. In the next 4 or 5 slides, I cannot remember, you will see now on the left part of the slide one graph, and in the right side of the slide, the 5 bestsellers, the 5 Italian bestsellers in the year, because they can give you some information concerning the market. Here you can see the numbers of Italian fiction. As I told you, the fiction as a whole has gained a lot and during the years, and Italian fiction represent to the total fiction more or less 44%, 45 in 2019 of the overall market. And it is actually a good percentage, I think. I do not have the numbers of all European countries, but it's if you consider the huge weight of English fiction in Italy, but in every other country of the world, the fact that the Italian fiction is worth 44% of the total is not bad after all. And the Italian authorship is gaining lots of weight during the especially the bestsellers. Now, if you look at the top 5 in 2023, I'm not sure if they sound something to you, probably not, but it's important to notice in the 4th position, the winner of the most important Italian prize, the Premio Strega. The book is called Comedaria. You can see the only book capable of make sales at the same level of Prince Harry, La Porta Lettere. And you can see a typical Christmas gift, the book in the 5th position, and clearly it went out in November 2023 in order to be the perfect gift. In this chart, unlike the one of 2022 and 2024, probably, you cannot see genre fiction, especially romance, but there are tons of titles of Italian romance, and they are increasing lots of importance during the last years. If you're interested in genre fiction in Italy, I can share with you numbers or other considerations. Then the most interesting phenomena of the Italian market by far, comics. And when I talk about the importance of comics in Italy, mainly we talk about the explosion of manga. You see, they were worth 12 million euros in 2019. They were worth 65 millions in 2022 and 55 millions in 2023. And unprecedented growth. I think no one has seen something like a 3-digit growth in such a short period of time. It is true if you look at the overall sales that comics have lost 11 points compared to 2022, but well, it's still 3 times higher than 2019. And it's also true that there are less titles of new manga available in 2023 compared to the previous year. It's interesting also to see the importance of graphic novels. We have lots of interesting Italian authors that have been able to export their titles also abroad. I hope some of you know at least Zero Calcare or GP. For instance, they are well known in French and I hope also in Canada, but I don't know if they are well known authors. But as you have already guessed by looking at the top 5 chart of Italian books, Italian comic books, the great phenomena in Italy of the last year are children books, Italian children books, and especially one single author. It's called Peratons. It's probably the first and only time I've seen since I'm in the Italian Publishers Association that in a single genre, one single author has made all 5, not even J.K. Rowling probably because they were books published in different years. But it is a YouTube phenomenon also, and children in Italy seriously love Peratoons. It will be also in Frankfurt, and if you are publishers of comics, you know for sure him. If we look then about the numbers of cultural nonfiction, with cultural nonfiction we mean book nonfiction for excluding university nonfiction, manuals, and so on. It has gained a lot compared to 2019, and it has gained something compared to 2022, even if the peak was in the 2021. Well, you can see scientific popularization in the third place, Carlo Rovelli. I don't know if in Canada you have read that article published in Guardian, if I'm right, saying how often do you think about Roman Empire? In Italy, actually, it seems we think a lot about Roman Empire because that's the topic of the second bestseller in Italy in nonfiction. Quando eravamo I padroni del mondo, it is its title. It talks about really the Roman Empire. But the great phenomena of the year also is Il mondo al contrario. And it is important to talk about this book for one reason. It is a self-published book. It was published only in Amazon and it gained so much importance, but it is the first time we have seen something like that. It is a very controversial book, I must be honest. It's written by actually a person that is member of the European Parliament with a far-right group, but there's been an editorial case in Italy. And I don't know if in Canada you have seen something like this extreme importance of the self-published books. In Italy, they are an important topic. I think I'll skip the part of manuals because I think I've been a bit slow, but even because here you can see lots of stereotypes about the Italian culture. For instance, the fact that there are lots of books about receipts, the book in the fourth position or in the second position, books concerning air fries and various other receipts and something like that. But if you want, we can talk about that later on. I wanted to show you before the children's books. The fact that the market is so has gained 7 points, if I'm right, compared to 2019, and has gained 1 point in 2023 compared to 2022. It's amazing because in Italy we have a demographical crisis. We have the second oldest country in the world right after the Japan. And it is impressive that the children market is being able, nevertheless, to gain so much. It's something incredible. And especially thanks to books for younger children. Books for children between 0 and 5 years are by far the jewel of our market. We have lots of important authors. It is the most important part of our export. We'll see in that later on. And in this moment, in data of 2024, are showing us that the market is suffering a bit, but still, it's not so obvious that in the last year it could have been able to even gain something compared to the previous year. I finished this section just showing you the bestseller in 2023, including also foreign titles. And here you can see, well, the first position is something everyone has seen in its own country. So Prince Harry, and that's the main reason why general nonfiction has gained compared to 2022. And in the third position, you can see a book. I don't know if it is that known also in Canada or in the US, but I think so. It's the book of Tilly Cole. It is a romance published in 2018, but romance are the great phenomena of the Italian market at the moment. Also in 2024, it is by far the genre that is driving sales, and it is increasing reading habits among youngs, and it is something amazing because it was lots of time since the last time we have seen so many young person enters in young people, sorry, enter in bookshops. So it is just something that has been an important phenomena. You can see also other books can follow it, but I think in every country in the world, the last book of Ken Follett has been in the top 10 bestsellers of the year. Now, the last part of my presentation will be probably the most interesting, and so I'm really sad that it takes so much to me to reach this part. Probably I should have been faster, but I hope I'll be able to show you all the data I wanted to present. The first graph is probably the one that I hope it will remain impressed in your mind. That is the trend of sale and purchase of translation rights in Italy in the last 22 years. You can see in not so much time ago, in 2001, we sold 1,800 titles and we bought 5,400 titles. In 2022, the numbers are impressive. We sold slightly less than 8,000 titles. We bought more than 9,000 titles with compound annual growth rate that are impressive. Not even Chinese economy probably have had compound annual growth rate so good. And these numbers, it's what I really want you to remember. Do not come out of the blue. These not just a red line and a blue line. These are stories. These are stories of the participation in the book fairs worldwide. It's the stories of translation grants by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and so on. It is an effort of the publishing sector as a whole. And it's lots of efforts, but it pays. It was not obvious to reach these numbers. And for instance, you can see that children books in 2022 accounted for more than one third of our export. And it is pretty, I don't want to say obvious, but we host the most important children book fair worldwide. It obviously means a huge boost for the sales of children and YA titles abroad. It has been something. It is the most important genre of our export from several years. But the great news of this year, of 2022, for the first time, is that nonfiction has been even more important than fiction. It is something, some extent weird, but it means that, and totally unprecedented because, uh, how to say that, uh, until not so many years ago, in Italy, there were not so many authors that interesting for the foreign public. It has changed quickly, and it is interesting to notice that nonfiction, it is so important at the moment. The last aspect I want you to notice is the export of comics. You could think it's just a 5%, but 5% it's a huge percentage if you think about that. I don't think so many other countries have can export 5% of comics as a whole. Okay, obviously excluding France and probably Belgium. Okay, in Japan. But in Europe, there are not so many countries capable of these interesting numbers. Here you can see how are distributed the sales of translation rights by geographical area. Europe, of course, is our main market, followed by Asia. And when I say Asia, I say especially China and especially children books. The Chinese publishers truly loves our children's books, and it is really important. You can also see that North America ranks so low, and that's something pretty common. I mean, we have made an European project in the last years, and it is almost impossible to reach the North American market. And when I say the North American market, I'm not talking about the Canadian book market, but I'm talking about the US market. I think the only book that capable seriously to intercept the interest of the North American market was Elena Ferrante. And it is interesting, as probably you already know, that it wasn't a matter of a translation rights sold, but it was published directly in the US by an imprint controlled by the original publisher of Elena Ferrante. And since then, you can see this slide, probably some percentage will change in other countries, but I'm sure no country have better numbers concerning the sales in North America. And that's a problem every European publisher is facing. But it is also an opportunity. I mean, I hope we will be able, also thanks to this seminar, the Frankfurt and so on, to sell more translation rights in the US or directly in Canada, who knows. Here we will see a focus on European market. Oh, sorry, I've noticed right now that names are in Italian. I will ask Gabriel to translate well, I will translate that and I will send you the correct version. Pardon me for that, but I hope the names are pretty understandable for you all. But well, Spain is the main market for the Italian export, followed by France, Poland. Well, I'll read them all at this point. Greece, Germany, Russia, Portugal, Netherlands, UK, Slovakia, I think, Balkan, or the other Balkanic countries, or the other Central European countries, the other Baltic countries, and the other countries that do not fill the other categories. But well, I'm not sorry for this mistake I made, but it is important for you to know that Spain is our main market, French the second. It is always has been this way in the last, I don't know, 10 years probably. And Germany has always been among the fifth most important market in for our export. The
Hi.
UK.
Hi, Bruno. Sorry to interrupt. It's just we're at
Yeah.
the at 11:30 hour. For
Okay.
anybody who needs to leave, we can, if you have questions, please feel free to email them to me and I will send them to Bruno. And like you said, we'll send you updated slides later. And for those of you who can stay, please stay. This is great. There's still a little bit of content left and it's really good. So I hope you can stay a bit longer. But I just thought for those of you who have to leave, any questions that you have, please feel free to send them my way. And carry on, Bruno. Sorry to
Okay.
interrupt.
No. Sorry, I have to say sorry to everyone who will have to leave right now. I thought I would spend less time in the previous part, so I'll try to be a bit faster. So, well, here there is nothing more than we have seen before. I mean, obviously, English is our our main language in which we translate book. It's obvious and something everyone knows in every country outside the UK, the US, and Canada, and so on. But still, there are lots of titles published by French, German, and so on. Co-editions are an important part of our internationalization, especially if some of you are publishers specialized in children books. You can see we have made slightly less than 2,000 co-editions in 2022. That gained something in 2023, but they are for the vast majority of them children books. Once again, thanks to the great importance of this sector in the translation, in the internationalization of our book market. Here, it's something in which I will not spend many words because you will be able to read these slides. There are lots of translation grants in Italy, and it is important for you to know them in order to better cooperate with Italian publishers. Mainly the ones from the Ministry of Foreign International Cooperation, the one for the CEPEL, that is Center for Books and Reading by the Ministry of Culture. I'll skip, I won't read this slide. Well, the first conclusion, this slide is pretty sad, I know, but it's just, I hope to see all of you in person in Italy. In the link in this slide, you will be able to see our program. Well, there will be a literary program, but especially a professional program. If you haven't get enough of all these numbers you've seen, you will see even more data, more up to date. Lots of data concerning 2024 and so on. There will be lots of presentation, lots of discussions, and well, it's a professional program, so I hope you will find it interesting. And moreover, if you want to find even more data, I don't know if some of you have this profession, just person like me that make this for a job. You can just check the site of the Italian Publishers Association, the section Studies and Researches, when you can see lots of data, monthly update ones, researches, presentation, video presentation. And tomorrow will be presented the report on Publishing in Italy 2024, even if it is only in Italian. But there are lots of material also in English. And I leave you also the link to the Giornale della Libreria, that it is our magazine. And you can also find some articles if you're interested in some trends in the Italian market. And once again, sorry for this to take so much, but well, I'm here if you have some question or if I haven't been clear enough in the different parts. In the meanwhile, thank you all for the patience and sorry for all the numbers I've showed you. I hope they haven't been that boring. So please, if you want them here.
Hi, Bruno. Thank you so much. This is great information. You said, these line is just not a number. It's not just a line, it's a graph. These are stories, and I really get that sense. I don't think I've ever seen anybody bring numbers to life as well as you have. So thank you. We have one question in the Q&A, and it was from Mathilde Pinot-Valenciennes. They'd like to know, if possible, do you know how many languages Paratoons has already been translated into?
Oh, good question. I mean, I'm not sure even because it is an information of the publisher, but I remember to have read an article. If I'm not wrong, there was, well, for sure more than 10. I think even 20. I will give you the information by checking and send you an email, but it has been already translating lots of languages. Sorry, I cannot remember it exactly.
But it's good to know it's already been translated in lots of languages, right? That's a good sign.
Yeah,
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I must be honest, I can understand how these books have been so successful in Italy and worldwide, but really children get mad about these books and they are incredible.
Yeah, there's some children's titles here that are a little bit, head scratchers, as they say. You don't know why, but they're still good.
Yeah.
But Matilda says thank you.
Like,
I don't see any other questions right now. Let me see. I do have one question, I think that someone had sent to me previously, and it was about the sale of finished books. So are there any opportunities for selling English books or French language books directly through booksellers in Italy? Is there a readership for that?
yeah, well, there is a very short answer, and it is no, at least it's my opinion, but let me give you a more circumstantiating answer. I mean, probably you have already seen some data concerning sales of English language books in Germany or in Netherlands, because I've seen they've created a big debate in many specialized magazines, but in Italy we do not have such a big public capable of reading directly in English. I mean, it means that generally, especially for books for romance, for instance, people still, yeah, there is a small market, but well, I don't want to give advices, but probably it doesn't worth it. I mean, in Italy, we have a problem with reading habits. So there are few people reading and very few people reading well in English. So to some extent, it is a great information for Italian publishers because it means that they can still translate books and make more money, but it is to some extent a problem of our public in Italy. French even less than English. I mean, we are not in the situation of Germany and Netherlands for sure, not of the Finnish market and so on.
Yeah, because it's always surprising to see which European countries are very well versed in English or French, even that, like you said, like Finland or Germany, countries that don't have a lot of, don't have a colonial relationship or a pre-existing relationship. We're still reading very much in English. There's another question here, which may or may not, given your answer to the first one, it says, any duty tax for foreign books to sell in Italy?
If you are talking once again of books directly exported, well, I think so. I'm not sure, but I think so, like any other good that comes outside the European market. If you're talking about duty tax for the translation rights, I don't know. I'm not an expert of taxation, I must be honest, but I will try to give you a more correct answer.
Okay. Well, I think since if there's no other questions, I think I think we're over our hour's time, but as I mentioned before, any other questions that you think about later, if you're sort of thinking about this while you're doing your shopping or having your lunch, please feel free to send them to me today or tomorrow. Be happy to forward them to Bruno. And we'll send you as well the updated slides and any other information, as I mentioned before, about the guest of honor program. So for those of you, especially who will be at Frankfurt or will have colleagues who will be there, it would be great to have that information on hand. I'll say, I think it looks, yes, I'm just doing one last check. It looks like we've got all the questions down. Bruno, thank you so much for this. As I mentioned before, I don't think I've had anybody else before give us put these numbers to life like this for us. So this has been very, very enlightening, and also nice to not be intimidated by a chart for once. And we wish you the best of luck with the Frankfurt Guest of Honor program. It looks like you've got a really great program lined up ahead, and it's all in good hands. The last thing I would just say thank you to everyone who was here today. We really appreciate you being here, and hope that we'll get to see you again very soon. If you get a chance, we'll send you the links, the survey links, again with the message. But thank you to everybody, and thank you to our sponsors or our funders, the Canadian Heritage and Can Export from Global Affairs. We couldn't do this without all of you here. So thanks very much. And Bruno, I hope to see you in Frankfurt.
Yeah, I hope so. Hoping it means that I survived this week.
Yes.
It would be a really good sign to see you in person.
We'll send you lots of good vibes. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Once
Have
again,
a great.
Thanks everyone for the patience, and see you in Frankfurt, I hope. Goodbye.
Bye, everyone.